Council meeting for Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. We will begin the meeting with an invocation from Father Bill Dwan from St. Raymond Sacred Heart at 604 North Rayner Avenue. And then after the prayer, Father will lead us in the pledge. Father?
Dear wise and loving Father, thank you on behalf of all who are gathered here today. Thank you for your many and abundant blessings. Thank you for life itself, for the measure of health we need to fulfill our calling, for sustenance, for friendship. Thank you for the ability to be involved in useful work, for the honor of bearing appropriate responsibilities. Thank you for loving us from your boundless and gracious nature. In the scriptures, you said the citizens ought to respect governing authorities, since you've established those very authorities to promote peace, order, and justice. Therefore, we pray for our mayor, for the various levels of city officials, and in particular for this assembled council. We're asking that you graciously grant them wisdom to govern amid the conflicting interests and issues of our times, a sense of the welfare and true needs of our people, a keen thirst for justice and righteousness, confidence in what is good and fitting, the ability to work in harmony even when there's honest disagreement, personal peace in their lives and joy in their task. We pray for the agenda set before them, give them the assurance of what would please you and what would benefit those who live and work in and around our city of Joliet. It is in your most blessed name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Father?
Can I see your cell phone? I left mine in the car.
Yeah. Okay. Let me say something. I forgot about you. Oh, that's yeah. I just wanted to mention. So at this point, the meeting is turned over and led by the Honorable Mayor Bob Odekirk.
Thank you.
I forgot.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Odekirk.
Here.
Councilman Dickinson.
Here?
Councilwoman Gavin.
Here.
Councilman Hugg.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
Councilman Turk.
Here.
First on the agenda under mayor is recognition of Joliet Catholic Academy Girls Volleyball IHSA Class 3A State Runner-Up. Coach Christine Scheibe is here to highlight their successful year.
Hello, thank you for having us here tonight. It is an honor to be here. I've been here before, and it's wonderful to see some familiar faces up there, some daughters who have been to state before and out here in the crowd also. This team this year was a phenomenal team. We faced a lot of adversity this year. We never got to play the season with our starting lineup. We had so many injuries this year that these girls just had to battle through. And they faced many times where I'm sure they were ready to give up and just say it's not going to happen for us this year. But they kept battling on and they kept going. And to their credit, they were able to make it downstate and were able to take second in state. And they just showed, I think, the city of Joliet that we really are a city of champions and were able to come through and do what they needed to do to get downstate this year. Is it okay if I introduce some of the girls? Yes. If you want to come up here. I apologize for more girls not being here tonight. Some of them had basketball practice, some of them had club volleyball practice. But starting over here, I have Sam Horn. She is a sophomore who was brought up to varsity, played part of the season up there. She's got a good future ahead of her, back 2 more years. Also over here is Logan Powers. She is a senior who is graduating. Unfortunately, this year, she was one of our injured players, never got to play on the court this season, but she is such an emotional leader for our team and was always our cheerleader on the bench. And she's 99% sure she's going to Arizona State next year. Over here is Erin O'Grady. Erin was our libero this year, our defensive specialist. She was a big pick-me-up for us this year. She's kind of our talker on the floor, our emotion on the floor. She was a transfer student to us, so I think it meant a lot for her to be on the floor with us this year because she sacrificed and had to sit out her junior year due to a transfer. Next, we have Riley Hungate. She was a sophomore on our team, but she was a starting outside hitter. She ended up having a phenomenal year for us and made several all-area teams and so forth. And on the end is Bella Ray, who was a senior. She will be continuing her career at Lewis University next year. She is a 4-year starter for us. She made all-state honorable mention, several all-area teams. She's just the end-all be-all epitome of volleyball. And so we thank you for this honor of being here tonight. Really appreciate all the city has done for us. Thank you.
Do you want to take a photo? Sure.
Oh, the elected people.
So good to see you.
Thank you.
Congrats.
Great job.
Thank you.
He's trying to recruit. He's trying to recruit up here.
Bring it over to the side.
Can you see?
She's used to that.
For our Facebook page.
That's why they're volleyball players.
Congrats, you guys. Morgan never got to come. Morgan never got to come.
No. Did they? And I wanted your thing too. I want mine.
Moving on, next is Mayor Odekirk appointments.
None tonight, but like I said, depending on tonight's vote, we're going to rework the environmental committee and revamp it. Those appointments will be coming forward shortly.
Approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written with the following change? Remove Council Memo 6-20, which is an ordinance granting a variation to allow a driveway that does not lead to a garage at 1111 Waverly Place.
So moved. Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve the agenda as written with the removal of Council Memo 6-20. Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
How about aye, but this is going to go back to the ZBA and then back to us?
If they approve it at the ZBA level, it will not need to come back to council
Okay.
for approval.
If not, it will come back to us.
It does not need to if it's approved. If it's denied at that level, then you have the option to bring it back to
All
council.
right, thank you.
Next is citizens to be heard on agenda items. First is Tanya Arias.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. So I'm Tanya Arias. I am the president of the Collins Street Neighborhood Council. I believe last night you received my email with our press release in regards to the Thornton's gas station receiving a Class A liquor license. So I just want to do a little bit of clarification because there's a couple questions I saw from yesterday's City Council meeting. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to come yesterday due to a family engagement, but I do keep up with all the City Council meetings and I watch the videos that's provided on your website. So we are in favor of the gas station developing their gas station at our property, which is 400 Collins Street. For the public, that would be the corner of Collins and Jackson. What we're our residents are kind of like hesitant with is the liquor license. The reason being that we see that could potentially in the future affect the quality of life of the neighborhood and the residents. It's not really a secret that the city of Joliet is suffering from a homeless problem. One of the centers is located on Cass Street, which is Daybreak, and that is in the Collins Street neighborhood. So when people who are there during the day, they're out on the streets. So we see little pocket areas where some of these panhandlers are going to be on the street. We don't want them congregating around the gas station, especially if they know there's going to be on-service liquor there. Another thing is the hours of operation for the Class A liquor license. We don't want those hours for that area. Again, just because we see a potential future how that might affect our area. In addition, if the Class A liquor license is approved for the Thorns, that could also open up a possibility, and you guys discussed that last night, with other future or current gas stations wanting a liquor license. Currently, the neighborhood has about 3 other gas stations, one right across the street where Thorns is going to be at, which is Gulf. And on the border, we have one on Cass and Henderson, and then we have another one that's on our other border, which is on Scott and Jackson Street. Those are 2 gas stations. So those are some of the concerns that we were having. We are in favor that the Cassidy House be saved. That would be fantastic, and we do applaud Thorns for coming up with an idea that they will take on that responsibility. We just wish that that Class A liquor's license wasn't part of that agreement. I was here for the original, when this 3-way agreement was presented, which was on October 15th. And again, these days I'm taking from the actual website, going back to the meeting minutes. Collins Street neighborhood in itself was never notified that this 3-way agreement was gonna occur, so we kind of felt a little left out, being that when originally the developers came that they wanted to do this gas station in the first place, they didn't invite the neighborhood to come see what they wanted to develop. We did host a Collins Street meeting right after that meeting on October 23rd. That was actually our last meeting for the year, since our meetings were gonna be on holidays for November and December. Again, we addressed that issue. At the end of our meeting, some of our residents came up to us and they're like, we're still on the fence about that liquor license. It's great that they want to save the house. That's awesome. Gordon's coming to the neighborhood, bringing economic development. That's awesome. It's just that liquor license they don't agree with. So those are some of the things I kind of want to touch base with you guys with my press release. Because I know there are some questions, so I just want to leave that in open.
Thank you.
So thank you.
Next is Raj Sung.
Evening, council members. Raj Sungvi. I represent the current owners of the motel at 4200 West Jefferson. My clients purchased the property back in October of 2019, and I wanted to be here last night, so my apologies I wasn't there. But I just wanted to lay out a few points here before the vote for this evening, declaring it a public nuisance. Back in October, the motel was in bankruptcy. There were some issues with the city, but since then, we've taken over. We pulled it out of bankruptcy. We had to pay cash because of the deal, and we're ready and able to put in whatever money is required to bring it up to code and to make the city of Joliet and the people of the city of Joliet happy with the property. Now, just a week after we purchased the property, there was an admin hearing right in this room, and we met, and there were 4 items of safety concerns that were raised by the city inspector. I believe the meeting was on a Friday. That following weekend, by Monday, all of the issues were taken care of. The portions of the building that are referred to in the memo that have been shut down are all completely locked off and secure from the public. Since in the past 90 days, we have taken 7 30-foot dumpsters and just removed debris and junk and old items that were left in the motel. Carbon monoxide detectors are working, emergency lighting has been installed. We've had 2 inspections by the fire department, both of which have passed. And the reason that we're here for this part of this particular memo is to declare the property a nuisance. However, it's in its current state, in my opinion, it's not a nuisance. The ordinance, for the city of ordinance 20-4, define a public nuisance as property maintained in a manner to be detrimental to adjacent properties by causing debris, junk, refuse to accumulate. We have taken care of all that issues. We've removed everything out of all of the quote-unquote junk from the property, and we're still working on it. There were a list of violations that were sent out to us. We've completed almost all of them that we can without pulling permits. We have retained an architect and a contractor, which I met with before coming here today, and they will have plans. It is going to take some time to get the drawings taken care of, a couple of weeks, and they will have them submitted. Once the permits are pulled, we will start work on the back area, which has been shut down to the public. I have had a chance to review the memo that was submitted, and there's 4 pictures that are attached to it. It's my understanding those were taken back in October. Since then, a lot of work has been done to the property. There's one picture of the outside of the building with some furniture. That's all been cleared out. Another picture is of the back section of the motel. That's shut down to the public. It's boarded up. It's locked. As soon as we have the permits, we'll rehab and get that up and running. And then I believe the last picture is of the pool, an empty pool. There's an indoor pool in the motel. Since then, we have closed it down, shut it down to the public until we've had an opportunity to rehabilitate that. There's plenty of lighting. We've spent $20,000 on CCTV. Property is clean. I urge you to either vote no today on that memo, or at least we'd like to invite whoever of the city council would like to come over to the property and take a look to see the condition that it's in today and see what we've done over the past 90 days. And we're going to submit a plan to the city showing what we're planning on doing moving forward to get this large building, this large piece of property up and running to the city's satisfaction. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Drew Zazowski.
Good evening. Drew Zazowski with Thornton's. First off, I did speak with Tanya earlier today about her concerns. I could not convince her to flip her opinion, but I think she does understand that we are a first-class operation, that this is a huge investment by us, and therefore, we need to police our facility, make it a safe place for guests and team members, and be a great operator in their neighborhood, and we intend to do that. So last night, I appeared before the pre-council and presented a long history of this project spanning the last 2+ years. For the interest of time, I will not go over those details again, and I think everyone on the council knows where we stand. I believe the discussion last night was a healthy discussion, but one that should have occurred before we agreed to delay construction, before we spent 2 to 3 months with city staff and our outside counsel negotiating the agreements, and before the council twice voted to approve the development agreement, setting certain obligations of the city. And during all of those discussions and negotiations, Thornton's has complied with the terms of the development agreement to the best of our ability. In fact, we have made several good faith gestures along the way, including extending the development agreement to allow for a thorough review by the city of our license application, assisting in the project management of the relocation effort, identifying engineers and other resources that will be needed to make the relocation happen, releasing $10,000+ out of the escrow account to Dave Mackley, former city employee, and others for their efforts on the relocation effort thus far, agreeing to increase the initial budget of the relocation effort, which was originally presented to us as $180,000, then $300,000, then $350,000, all of which we agreed to. We even entertained that in addition to the relocation effort itself, the actual picking up and moving of the building, which is estimated to cost $150,000 to $200,000, that the balance of the money be used for site improvements at the new location, including utility relocation fees, legal fees, and other costs to set up Will County for success on this project. There was discussion that this house could be used as a museum or a coffee shop, or something else that takes the currently vacant city property, generating no sales tax, no property tax, and turn it into something that's generating money for the city that people can use and enjoy. You know, we're at this decision point tonight because of the efforts of many people at Thornton's, many of the preservationists, many of the city staff who helped this project move along. And I want to thank all of them for their effort thus far. I really do appreciate it. And as I closed with last night, please consider the precedent it sets for the city to not follow through on the terms of the development agreement approved by this board. Please vote to approve the license tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Antonio Pena.
Union Mayor and City Council. I was here in reference to Thornton, their gas station that's going to be open because of the liquor license. I'm a resident of Jackson Street for 47 years. I'm probably the only one here who's lived in that area that long. My biggest concern is the liquor license because of the environment. You know, Cass Street is a main thoroughfare, and if you drive down there any time of the day or night, there's so many homeless people out there at AutoZone, Mimi's liquor store, that Checkers, abandoned Checkers over there, constantly out there panhandling. It's very annoying and very bad for the city. My biggest concern is, are you going to be able to control it? We're going to get another liquor store. We already have 3 of them in that area. We don't need another one. There's Calderon's, there's one on Jackson, and Mimi's. You know, I think that's enough alcohol for anybody to consume in that area. We really don't need that. My biggest thing is I have grandkids who walk through there. And when you see people hanging around all day, panhandling, the kids, it's not a good role model for them to see. And my biggest concern is that they can't control Cass Street. How are they going to control that over there? I mean, you can drive by there any time of the day and night and you'll see groups of people sitting out there. And that's my biggest concern because as a resident, I don't think we need that in that area. I've talked to people from Thornton's and I understand it's a business and good for the economy, but as for my living habitat, we don't need that. The east side is developing better and better, and this probably will help it. But I don't think that another liquor store is going to do any good. That's just my opinion. And I'd like to address that to you because it's a big concern. I've called officers about it, and they said, well, they're just going to go down the street. You know, but that's your job, to make them leave and disperse. And as a citizen, I believe that it's your responsibility to prevent that. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Candace Johnson.
Good evening, Council Mayor Candace Johnson, Joliet resident. I'm up here tonight to just ask that you thoroughly think about the decision you're going to be making regarding the Cassidy home with concerning the liquor license for 400 at Collins Street. Yesterday, a comment was made that this could happen again. You know, what prevents another gas station from coming in and buying up the property and offering to move a house? But Joliet doesn't have a lot of 1850s houses. There's maybe a handful to 2 handfuls of them left in the city of Joliet. They're very rare, not to mention they're very rare to have them sitting on a commercial lot on a corner that would be accessible to a gas station that would allow one to actually go into the location. Not to mention your staff worked really hard on making an agreement that would be feasible, that would be allowable for them to go into the location, and also to hopefully not set a precedence for the rest of the gas stations in the city of Joliet. So I'm just asking that you strongly think about your decision, and if it were to fall through, that you do your best to come up with something that can be done to save the house, even if you don't approve the liquor license, because Joliet has lost hundreds of houses and hundreds of architectural features that have they've impacted the city of Joliet and how it's grown over the years. If we lose another one, we can't get it back. You can't make that stuff again. It doesn't happen. Joliet limestone has not been utilized to make a building since the 1940s. So unless you want to start opening a quarry business and building one yourself, I don't see it happening anytime soon. So thank you.
Thank you.
Joseph Roth.
Evening, Mayor, City Council. Joseph Roth, 1419 West Acres Road, Joliet. Comment on memo 12-20 on the agenda. It's resolution B4, and I'm doing it because I could not be here last night. But I just wanted to say I appreciate all the work the city has done, the Environmental Commission, on getting this point on a very difficult and complex subject. I do, as a citizen, support the Lake Michigan option, though my preference would be to flip A and 1 and 2 and have pursuing the city of Chicago as the water source versus the Southland Water Commission and the state of Indiana and the risks involved in that project. And it's simply because I think looking at the practicalities, legalities of having something done in Indiana with those entities and through Illinois in less than an 8-year period of time is daunting, let alone is it going to ultimately result in citizens having that same water from Lake Michigan at a short and long-term cheaper price and not and cheaper and more reliable in that you have someone else who has proven over 100 years that have delivered water and quality level. And I just think I'm concerned about the extent of legalities and problems, working with Indiana, getting through Illinois, all the real estate, all the work, that in, again, maybe an 8-year period of time, is it really going to come to fruition? If you do pursue the Southland Water Commission, I ask that you also aggressively keep in contact with the city, so if the problems getting through Indiana and creating a whole new system fall apart, the city does have an option to go back to Lake Michigan instead of having to go back all the way to ground zero, because the city is now no longer willing to talk with you, or the DuPage Water Commission is not willing to talk with you. So those are essentially were my comments. The only thing I would, my opinion, I think there's a value to having the Environmental Commission as a continuing entity, to have a voice and being a sounding board for this process. The real work, the real money is just beginning. So I think having that a layer outside of the city council and staff providing regular comment, input, and view on the subject is valuable. It may be conflict at times, but out of conflict, I think will come a better end product, which is what's important for the city of Joliet. So I think that's it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Gabriella Shanahan.
Gabriella Shanahan, 8005 Expedition Street, Joliet. First, I want to thank Mayor and City Council for taking the first steps in recognizing that the likelihood that the ground aquifer will not meet our supply by 2030. I would also like to commend the Environmental Commission for sorting through all of the various options, volunteering all of their time, and ultimately making a decision and a recommendation for council. I agree with their recommendation, and I feel the City Council should vote as the first choice for the Lake Michigan, Indiana intake source, the lower cost in the long run option. As we've heard frequently, there are future water shortages in the area, and they are not just unique to Joliet. I concur with Mr. Hugg's statements yesterday, in which he stated we should control our water supply and be a source for others. We should see which communities are interested in partnering with us now and have the capacity to allow other communities to purchase water from us in the future. I urge council to consider being a water supplier for other communities. I know we have the staff to become a leader in the water sourcing and to do this project correctly. If we take control of this project, we are also taking on the responsibility of creating new jobs for our residents in our city. I feel like we have the opportunity to create history. Much of Kendall County sits on an aquifer that's running dry. There are Kendall County communities that are starting their process and finding alternative water sources as well. Voting in favor of the Lake Michigan, Indiana intake sends a clear message to Kendall County and other south suburban communities that Joliet is ready to take the first step in becoming a regional water supplier. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak on an agenda item this evening?
Newburgh, 1713 Nelson Road in New Lenox. And I just want to read a statement about the Cassidy House titled, "Don't call me a preservationist, call me a visionary." There are many visionaries in Joliet. People rebuilding cars are visionaries. They look at an old wreck and see potential. Ministers who preach to their congregations are visionaries with the hope of saving their flock. Parents raising their kids are visionaries, guiding their children to a bright future that they envision. People that buy or adopt pets are visionaries as they imagine their future companionship. Indeed, the city of Joliet is visionary in the search for the new water source. And finally, people that want to save old houses and other important buildings are visionaries. My hope and request is that with the Cassidy House, you will be a visionary.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak this evening on an agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to council committee reports. First is Public Safety Committee report.
Okay, Public Safety met this evening at 5:30 in the executive conference room. The committee consists of myself, Jan Quillman, the chair, Councilman Duck Dickinson, and Councilman Larry Hugg. Also in attendance was Chief Lasky and Chief Rochner and the other staff members. This is too long, I'm not going to name everybody, and deputy chiefs. We authorized a request for authorization to purchase firefighter turnout gear, and we chose to go with Air One. They were $96 more than the other source that put the bid in, but they could not meet the specifications that the fire department put in. So for $471, that's what we've gone with. And then we had another discussion about immobilization, and I'm going to have our CTIS person, David Brainer, explain all that.
Good evening, Council. As you know, we've been working on our local adjudication project for roughly 13 months now. And in that time period, we've had great compliance. Everything's been working great. There's been a small group, unfortunately, that has decided to not pay their tickets. So the options are few when you have somebody who's racking up a bunch of tickets. We've got some individuals in a 12-month time period that have north of 25 tickets. There is a new technology out there that we're gonna give a shot. It's called a barnacle. It's basically a device that goes on top of the windshield that makes it impossible to drive. It allows them to go on the web and pay, and when they do so, it releases the device, and the device would need to be returned accordingly. Again, this is something that's far and few between, but unfortunately, the dollar amounts and the time and effort the city is putting forth to processing all these tickets is growing and growing at a rapid rate. The hope is that when this thing gets implemented, it'll change behavior, and people just pay tickets in the first place, and then hopefully just not park where they're not supposed to. So that's, in a nutshell, what we're going to do. We're going to be kicking off a pilot, and hopefully it gives us results that we're looking for.
So if you have outstanding tickets, you might want to pay them now. So like as David Brainer said, this is going to be a pilot program. We'll see where it goes, and hopefully if you get a $10 ticket or whatever the cost is, please pay it now. Don't let it rest 5, 10, throw them on the ground, because you're not going to be happy with this new system. Just putting it out there as a heads up. Anybody else have anything to add? Councilman Hugg? Councilman Dickinson?
I just think that Barnacle program is going to be a great program for the city. It'll help us recoup a lot of money.
So that concludes our report.
If I may comment,
Yes.
if possible, could you present that to the council? Because it's going to be a controversial thing.
Well, we discussed that, and we wanted to make sure it was up and running before we present to the council, because right now the cost is less than, what was the cost to start up? Like
It's nominal. The startup cost is under $2,000 to get going with
right
it.
now. So
And
before
and here's the thing: we already have an ordinance in place for mobilization. We just haven't been doing it. So it's on the books, and
there's a boot system on the books.
We got people that are
and we don't
flagrantly not paying the tickets. I mean, these people are getting a ticket on their windshield. They're getting a first notice in the mail. They're getting a second notice in the mail. They're probably getting a collections notice. And then this is happening again for a second, third, fourth, fifth ticket. We're talking about people that have upwards of almost 100 communications without paying, and it's costing the city a lot of money.
So before we brought the whole thing to the council, we just wanted to try it to see if it was going to work.
Will you bring it forward then at some point?
Yes.
Okay.
That was the plan.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Next is the Public Service Committee report.
The Public Service met yesterday here at City Hall at 4:30 in the City Council Executive Conference Room. To my right on the committee and in attendance was Councilwoman Gavin, Councilman Morris, and myself, as well as the directors of Public Works and Public Utilities and their staff. It was a fairly routine meeting. We had 7 items under contracts, and essentially all but 2 that were purchases for new vehicles for the Water and Sewer Department were contracts that were opened and bid out and let for our continuing effort to replace at least 2% of the water or sewer, which had been neglected for many years, system here in the city. So unless anybody wants to raise their hand for me to go through each of the water and sewer contracts, I think we can just accept the fact that we vetted them and they were appropriate bids, and we'll go towards this year's 2% of improvements. That 2% improvement, and if we can get it higher, we would, but 2% will address the water issue. Because in addition, when you take Lake Michigan water, regardless of where you get it, you're restricted on how much water loss you can have. So we have to get our number down even further from the 30%. I think it was high at one point at 36%, it's down to 30. And the improvement is we should be able to hit that under 10% water loss mark. I think we said, correct me if I'm wrong, Allison, about 20 years with the improvements. 2% a year, that's 40% of the system that will be improved, in addition to the 8 to 10% we've already approved in the last 4 to 5 years. So it's an important component. It's not just a routine maintenance to get our aging water and sewer system up to snuff. It's going to directly impact our ability long-term to continue to use Lake Michigan water. Other than that, we had some change orders and ordinance and resolutions that we looked at were simply housekeeping for the contract so that they could be paid. We looked at all the items, we discussed them, we vetted them, and we found as a committee unanimously on all the items that they were fine, and sent them on with our unanimous recommendation to this full council to approve all the contracts, change orders, pay estimates, final payments, ordinance, and resolutions that you'll find on the agenda tonight. Unless you have anything to add, Councilwoman or Councilman?
No, sir.
That would be our presentation, Mayor.
Thank you.
The Ad Hoc City Manager Search Committee
Yes.
report. I'm sorry.
Just to back up, getting back to this pilot program, I did suggest that we possibly bring it to the council. And what was your suggestion, Mr. Jones? That we wait, that we could wait on it before bringing it up to see if it works. It's supposed to bring in a lot of money. So I just found out about this tonight. It was discussed tonight, so I didn't have enough time to give you a heads up on it. But if you want the council to approve it, I mean, I have no problem with that.
Well, I think it's going to be controversial. I think we should at least vet it at some point.
Okay, well, I mean, that's why I wanted to try it
I understand the
first.
cheaper price.
Right.
I certainly understand collecting money that's owed to us. That makes
Mhm.
sense. But there's something new, and there's gonna be
Well, for years, there's been a boot ordinance on the books, but we don't have any boots. So people that are getting these tickets, they're piling them up and piling them up, and they're just throwing away because there's no consequence. So Mr. Bringer came up with this, the rep was there, explained the thing, and he'll certainly come back and show everything later. But if you want them to come now, we can certainly wait. That's up to you.
If we're getting a deal on the price, I don't think we should wait, but I do think the council should vet this at some point.
And that's fine. Do you want to come back at the next council and put on the agenda?
Sure.
Okay.
Mayor, and just to be clear, all that was done in the committee, nothing odd, is it's an expenditure that's well under the $20,000 threshold that would take council action. This is not a permanent program, but a pilot program, and we thought it was wise to do the pilot program. If in fact it was determined that it was a complete, failure, they'd be out of the program under its pilot testing.
Any other questions?
No.
All right.
Ad Hoc City Manager Search Committee report.
Kathy, are you going to give a report?
So we're working to schedule the next series of discussions with potential candidates, and that looks to be toward the end of January.
Any questions?
Is there some reason why we're waiting till the end of January?
Yeah, we have 3 candidates left. Is it the candidates that can't make it or council people that can't make it?
It's the council that we're trying to get together.
Okay.
I show no other reports. Under consent agenda, approval of the minutes, it's recommended the minutes of the special meeting held on December 11th, 2019, and the minutes of the pre-council meeting held on December 16th, 2019, stand approved as recorded. In Council Memo 1-20 position vacancies, it's recommended the city manager be authorized to fill 1 planning assistant position in the Community Development Department, 2 police sergeant positions, and 1 part-time parking enforcement officer, and any subsequent vacancies which may occur with these positions. Is there a motion to approve said consent agenda items?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Motion carried. Under licenses and permit applications, amended Council Memo 2-20, a resolution approving the denial of a Class B and Class C liquor license for Thornton's LLC located at 400 Collins Street. The Liquor Commissioner is recommending a resolution be approved denying a Class B and a Class C liquor license for Thornton's LLC at 400 Collins Street.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just to clarify for council, is they can also make a motion to approve a B and a C, just like we've done in the past.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to throw something out there. I don't know if it could be a compromise or not, but get your opinion on it and the council's opinion on it. But, you know, I think everybody up here wants to save the house. Some of us don't agree that liquor should be sold, consumption liquor on premises to the gas station. But what if we were to, Thornton's is putting up $300,000 to move the house. What if we were to grant the liquor license until Thornton's has recouped their investment of $300,000, which could be anywhere from 5 years to 8 years? And then if Thornton's wanted to continue to adopt the home, and because I don't think the Historical Commission has the money for it, and the city doesn't have the money for it, but if they wanted to put windows in it and make it a showcase, and wherever the building's going to end up, that could be extended for another investment. And then if you get calls from other gas stations in the area who say, you know, hey, I want a liquor license too, if they're willing to adopt a building like this or do a similar project that's going to benefit the city, then we could consider that on an individual basis. I don't know.
I think that's a fair compromise. If it works, again, we're not going to negotiate in public, but, or maybe we will. If it works for Thornton's, because I think it keeps, the development is great for the neighborhood. That corner has been vacant for I don't know how long, since 1993 when I came here.
Long time.
It preserves the house, which is probably the oldest building standing in Joliet, and it would allow Thornton's to recover their money, which is certainly fair. No one, I don't think, believes that you guys should take the hit on this. So I don't know, Marty or Steve, what are the logistics on this? I think Councilman Hug, you mentioned it last night, a sunset clause on this?
Probably be more up to direct the attention to the question of Thornton's.
Mike, you want to step forward?
Drew Zazowski with Thornton's. You know, the development agreement as it was presented to us, you know, originally by the city was for the license to be in place indefinitely, not to be limited in any capacity for a number of years. That's not what's on, you know, in front of you guys tonight. I can't agree to that. I don't have the power to agree to that this evening. I'd really like the council to vote on, you know, the application, the liquor license, and the development agreement that was approved by City Council.
Okay.
Mayor?
Yes.
Councilman, was that just a guesstimate? I mean, where did you get the 5 to 8 years to recoup the cost, based
Well,
on 5?
I took similar, I mean, it's a real rough guesstimate. I know
Okay.
some
neighborhood taverns that have them. We're collecting $3,000 a month. So I kind of took the $300,000. They get 300, so many months, and it came out to like something like 8.3 years or something. And it could be more money, it could be less money. We don't know.
Thank you. I was just curious, 'cause I didn't know if we had some data, that wasn't available to me. I talked to several people today who are supporters, not just of the Cassidy House, but of this proposal. Frankly, 2 of the 3 were in complete agreement that my points they couldn't disagree with, and that we're at a different situation than the emotion of saving the Cassidy House. That, of course, this would be bad public policy to have open alcohol consumption at a gas station. I'm not comfortable, and they've spoken on how they're not looking to go down that road necessarily now. He doesn't have the authority. I'm not looking to encourage another 36 gas stations to adopt a house and start selling liquor for consumption on their, it doesn't make it, whether it's a year, 5 years, or 8 years, it doesn't make it better public policy. Now, certainly, if it can be saved in some way financially, and I don't mean to be flippant about it, but an estimate that I was given of the number of people that signed both in person or online, if I'm correct, petition to save it was about 1,300 people. If it costs $200 to move it, okay, and you've got 1,300 people that are passionately, emotionally attached to whatever it takes to save it, whatever, public policy set aside, that would be $153 per person. For those that care that much. Unfortunately, I don't want to be the bearer of bad news, but not everybody cares about historical buildings as much as this person or that person. We all have different views. I would love to see it saved. I would certainly kick in $153.27 for the removal. So there is legitimate other options other than selling liquor to people to drink while they're pumping their gas. And I know that's an oversimplification, so it was intended. It's just bad policy.
At this time, there's no motion on the floor, so.
I would make a motion to deny.
Second.
Okay, so I just want to be clear. So the motion is to approve the resolution denying.
No, I'm sorry, to deny the
liquor
liquor license. So to approve the recommendation from staff. My motion would be to approve the recommendation from staff to deny the liquor license. Okay, well, I'll say it again, so can you help me out here?
So it's been motioned and seconded to approve a resolution denying a Class B and C liquor license for Thornton's LLC located at 400 Collins Street. Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
No.
Councilwoman Coleman?
No.
Councilwoman Reardon?
No.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
No.
Councilwoman Gavin?
No.
Motion failed, 3-5.
Are you looking for a counter motion now?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to continue the agreement that we all approved here 2 months ago, that was put together by our legal staff and approved by the council. I don't think I obviously have to read this whole thing.
I think it would be to approve the liquor
Yeah,
license.
to approve,
the liquor
yeah,
license.
it would be a motion to approve a Class B and C liquor license for Thornton's LLC.
Thank you.
Is there a second?
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve a Class B and C liquor license for Thornton's LLC located at 400 Collins Street. Councilman Morris?
No.
Councilman Mudrin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Coleman?
I've been torn about this vote all day, and little by little, Joliet has been losing their historic buildings, and this, to be known, one of the oldest house in the city of Joliet. I understand the emotion here, but on the other hand, we did approve 7-1 vote, the original development agreement with Thornton's, and it was a back and forth deal, and finally came to conclusion that they would move the house at their cost. And I think this is an exception to the rule. There could be some issues down the line here, but I did agree to that before, so I'm not going to renege on my first agreement, so therefore I will vote aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
No.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Just to be clear for the record, the development is not at risk. Correct me if I'm wrong, however we voted, you're building it. What's at risk is whether or not we're willing to give away a certain measure of safety to our citizens in that area when it comes to drunk driving possibilities to save a building. That's what it comes down to. Thank you for correcting the record, Councilwoman Quillman, because Councilman Mudron said we approved it. No, Councilman Mudron, we didn't. I've been against this from the beginning.
7-1 with the
Right.
vote.
But she clarified that, which I would have done when it got to me. The bottom line is, if it's okay to do it now, just make it policy. People can go to a gas station and get drunk and drive home. If it's not okay because of the implied safety factors, why is it okay only in this situation? Are we really willing to sell the safety of our residents and our kids to save one building, no matter how old it is? Why don't people, like I said, step up and make the donations to do it without encouraging people to pump gas, drink, leave buzzed, and get back in their car? If it's okay to do and it's not inherently dangerous or wrong, then just do it for everybody. And if we're saying we can't do it for everybody because it would be wrong, how is it right for this one? I vote no.
Motion carried 5-3. Thornton's LLC was issued a Class B and C liquor license. Next is a public hearing, Council Memo 3-20, an ordinance and resolution associated with 275 West Laraway Road. This includes an ordinance approving the reclassification of 40 acres at 275 West Laraway Road from B3 General Business to I1 Light Industrial Zoning, and a resolution approving the amendment to an annexation agreement at 275 West Laraway Road. This public hearing was opened at a previous meeting and continued to tonight, so public comments would be in order at this time.
It's a public hearing. Would anyone like to speak on this issue?
Seeing no comments, let the record show the hearing is now closed. Is there a motion to adopt an ordinance approving the reclassification of 40 acres at 275 West Laraway Road from B3 to I1 zoning, and a resolution approving the amendment to an annexation agreement at 275 West Laraway Road?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudron.
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on under ordinances, Council Memo 5-20 is an ordinance designating 113 North Ottawa Street, St. Mary Carmelite Church as a local historic landmark. Staff is recommending this designation be denied.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to deny the designation of 113 North Ottawa Street as a local historic landmark. Councilwoman Quillman.
You know, we have a preservation commission in place here to preserve our old homes, and when they come, every time they come and want something landmark, it's always a big deal. It's always an issue. So if we're not going to try to preserve our buildings, why are we have a commission in place? It doesn't make any sense to me. I vote no.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Quickly, and I'm not remembering the word right now, because there is a proposal, Steve Jones, that there's going to be a, help me out, an agreement.
The restrictive
covenants.
which has been filed and recorded at
Right,
Will County.
which would essentially do much of the same of what this designation would have done.
Right. It prevents the demolition or significant destruction with regard to the building itself. And then part of landmarking also involves redevelopment, so you don't basically do things that are totally out of character. We feel that because of the dollars and cents necessary to redevelop this, that through a redevelopment agreement, there would be the need for incentives, and we could tie those incentives to them maintaining some historical integrity to this. So we feel the combination of those two elements really achieves this, and it becomes something that's voluntary on behalf of the property owner. It's not us going in and saying that we will landmark this against your wishes.
And the restricted covenants would survive sale.
Yes, it is for successor owners as well.
Okay, so we would essentially be doing the same thing. The exterior would be preserved with its historic significance. However, they would have some leniency with inside what they can do for uses that would be marketable.
More flexibility,
Right.
correct.
Okay, aye.
Councilman Morris?
No.
Councilman Mudrin?
I don't see where we have the right to override the owner of the property, so I'm voting yes.
Motion carried 6-2. The designation was denied. Council Memo 6-20 was previously removed from the agenda. Council Memo 7-20, an ordinance declaring certain properties public nuisances. Staff is recommending said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon?
No.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
No.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
No.
Councilman Mudrin?
Based on the report, I'd vote no.
Councilwoman Coleman?
I have a question. This gentleman from the hotel came up and said he did all these improvements. Has anybody been out there to actually see if those improvements were made?
There is a re-inspection scheduled for, I believe, the 14th of this month.
I'd like to table this until we check that out.
I think we're in the middle of a vote. We have to finish the vote.
Table's accurate any time, and I didn't vote yet.
Okay. There's a motion on the floor.
Second.
Do you have a specific date for the next?
For the next
council?
council meeting, so
Okay.
the inspectors can get out there and see if this work has actually been done and how much more work needs to be done.
Okay. It's been motioned and seconded to table Council Memo 7-20, an ordinance declaring certain properties public nuisances to the January 21st council meeting. Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 7-20, which is an ordinance declaring certain properties public nuisances, has been tabled to the January 21st council meeting. Council Memo 9-20 under resolutions is a resolution authorizing the sale of police dog to Officer Christopher Darcy. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 10-20 is a resolution approving the fiduciary agreement between the City of Joliet and the Metropolitan Area Narcotics Squad. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 11-20, resolution accepting a permanent easement and a temporary construction easement for PIN 050626400014 for the Hobart Road Water Main Extension Project. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 12-20 is a resolution selecting a primary and secondary alternative water source.
Mayor?
Yes.
May I? I'd like to just
bring up a few more points. We talked about this a lot last night, but I'd like to bring up a few more things. I think we've agreed on one thing, that we're looking at the Lake Michigan water source. I think making a secondary and a primary could be a mistake in this case. I'd like to see us investigate both options simultaneously. There's a lot to think about going into Indiana. You know, what could possibly go wrong on 43 miles state lines, you know, all these different municipalities. I'd like to keep our option open with Chicago so that if something within the year of trying to investigate this process, it's just not going to happen the way we expected, that we have another option that we've already been looking into. And in the meantime, you know, if other things come up that we can investigate, we have the time to do that. You know, Allison, we've asked everybody their opinion, and we know what the Environmental Commission's opinion is. You're a water professional. What is your opinion? What would you like to see happen?
You know, I believe what you're recommending is a good approach to keep the options open. You know, with the way that the Environmental Commission, when they made their recommendation, that was the intent, exactly what you were describing. There are many unknowns with all of the alternatives. So with such a big decision that has to be made, taking the time and effort to fully vet out both of these, I would support that.
So would we have to reword this in order to say we're not going to have a primary and secondary, or can we agree that we'd like to look at them simultaneously, or what would we need to do to?
Mayor, it would just be a motion to amend the resolution to select essentially two primary sources or two alternatives.
Well, may I make that motion?
Before we move forward, if we can continue the conversation, Mayor?
Yes.
Allison, or whoever has this information, why exactly are we going through Indiana and not choosing to go through Chicago?
So the understanding.
Not to buy from Chicago, go through Chicago to get to the lake.
Yes, and that is potentially a third alternative would be to discuss with the city of Chicago if they would want to grant access to the city of Joliet to, you know, for an intake into the lake in Illinois. So that would potentially be another discussion to be had with the city of Chicago.
The possible assumption being that it would be cannibalizing one of its own possible customers. Let's be frank. I don't see a problem with the motion as it stands. Allison, I don't think the email that you and I exchanged on 2 questions I had, I don't think it's top secret, is it?
No.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to make sure. You know, we can look into it. We should continue to look into it. We should actually approach Chicago and see if it's a cheaper option to go through Chicago. I thought there was a reason we couldn't, is my understanding over this last 18 months. Maybe it was just because they probably won't grant it, because if we don't make it to the lake, then we have to buy from them, okay? That's just good business sense for that, you know, for a company. And my question was about how binding would any agreement on price be should Chicago, which has its well-publicized financial woes and you know, the challenge that's before Mayor Lori Lightfoot, God bless her, to get it done. It's a big challenge. I don't envy her position. Is whether or not they could take that asset, which would be in excess of, I'm sure, $1 billion value in asset, and do what they has done with parking or with the Skyway. And my thing was, would any guarantee on prices for 5, 10, 20 years, however long any agreement would be, would it be preserved? And what I got back was, if Chicago sells the water system, can those proceeds be used to pay for pensions and other debt? This question is a bit complicated to try to answer without digging deeper into Chicago's water system finances. It depends on a number of factors, including outstanding revenue bonds, the source of payment of the water system, system revenue of general funds, et cetera, and other items. This would have to be investigated further as part of the water supply negotiations with the city of Chicago. So those that say the Indiana option has so many unknown obstacles and so many pitfalls that could happen, so does this, from a legal standpoint. And once we're connected to Chicago, there is no options. There's no us adding more and more people, more and more communities to help carry the bond and the debt as more and more communities want to tap in. We are a customer, and we will be treated as a customer in perpetuity. So I don't see a problem with the motion and the way it's set up. If there's something that we would find out financially, legally, or geographically where we couldn't do A, then we go to B. And if B didn't work out, then we'd be in a little bit of deeper trouble in finding out a C or a D. suppose we can go A, B, C, D, E, F if we want. I see this tonight as moving the city's decision on what source to use from a state of inertia that's existed for over 40 years to some kind of movement and commitment. Really all we're accomplishing through this particular amendment, or I'm sorry, this particular motion and memo is declaring that we have chosen Lake Michigan. We're not committing to any particular option. We're saying if it's feasible on all levels to do option A, that's our preferred option. If it's not, we move to option B. If that doesn't work out, then we have to figure something else out. It's about naming Lake Michigan as our preferred source of water, one way or the other. Thank you, Mayor.
What comment?
Yes, sure.
Ellison, is there any type of a time frame on the pricing that Chicago will give out to their customers / us for the future, or is that being any idea on that?
No, I mean, what they gave us over this summer that we utilized for the cost estimates was preliminary, with the understanding that there would be subsequent negotiations. They're in the process of completing a rate study that would further, refine whatever rate they'd be able to offer. So, and to answer your question, there is not a time frame. So the plan as presented in the resolution would be to move forward with those negotiations with City of Chicago concurrently while moving forward also with looking at the Indiana option.
Do we have any idea when they hope to have their rate study done? I was at the meeting when they said that.
Yeah, it's my understanding they had some preliminary information in December. We would look to set up a meeting with them in the next month to learn further if they're ready to present that formally.
Thank you.
I know we're done with comments, but I think the Water Committee people have earned the right to speak after 2 years of meetings. So,
Yeah, we did spend.
Mark, if you want to come forward too, I saw your hand up.
Do you need a motion, Mayor, to be formal?
Yeah.
I would make a motion to suspend the rules on speaking for the Water Commission members particularly.
Just for this, Wayne Horn, remember the.
Well, hold on, wait.
It's been motioned and seconded to suspend the rules on speaking to allow the Water Commission members to speak. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Wayne Horn, a member of the Environmental Commission. And just as a matter of clarification, the idea was to pursue that exactly what you were talking about. There's never was any intent not to do that. There is a host of regulations and other exercises that we have to go through before we can even get to the point of saying either one of them would work. We don't anticipate, we've been told, advised by the consultants, staff, and so on, that there should not be any hindrance to this. In fact, there are numerous indications that being a regional water source is what is being favored for us, specifically Joliet. We are in the forefront of this, and this is what we determined is the best way to pursue it. So having, you can have more motions if you want, but it seems redundant. We need to pursue it as quickly as we can so that we do know what we can do. And just one other comment on I know there's always an emphasis on cost. Cost affects all of us, but the reality is that no matter from the cheapest alternative, including the rivers, to the most expensive, is less than $1 a day. Now, it's not going to make any difference from a cost standpoint, which is the best method to pursue, because it's all expensive. It's going to increase water rates, but it is, in the long run, going to be the least or most cost-effective way to pursue this. Simultaneously is a recognized effort that we all agreed to. I think I speak for the ones that are here, that we all had discussed that even at the last meeting. So,
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just had 2 comments from 2 constituents that they asked me to present this tonight, very quickly, to be their voice. One question was, this is for Allison. They wanted to know, have we looked into the Aurora to system to keep their rates low with their hybrid system? Have we looked into that?
Yes, and that was in one of our responses to the Q&A documents that were posted on the website. So what Aurora does is they are able to utilize their existing wells in addition to the Fox River. And so as we were discussing last night with those low flow restrictions on the Kankakee, there would not be the ability to utilize the wells for the amount of time necessary during those drought periods.
There wouldn't be enough water that we could save. And the other constituent had made a suggestion, and I don't know if this was brought up, but if possible, since we have a canal here that goes all the way to Chicago, can we put a pipeline right that way if we got right of way for Chicago to do something like that?
Yeah, and we've not specifically looked into that routing. As we discussed last night with the consultants who did the routing, they were utilizing utility corridors as the best means to get water. And again, the water's coming from the southwest pumping station. So that location, dictates what
They
the
were thinking this is
best
like a
route.
more direct route. It'd be cheaper, so.
Yeah, and again, that would be something that we begin to look at, definitively, is actually that route this year.
Okay, I asked their questions. I'm good.
Thank you. Mark?
Mark Kaufman from the Environmental Commission. Just one thing I would say in response to Commissioner Reardon's, or Councilwoman Reardon's idea. I think strategically it probably makes sense to have a 1A and a 1B, and especially if Chicago, if you were to keep our voter resolution, because that communicates to the city of Chicago that they are kind of the second priority, and it might cause them to make a better offer, as opposed to if they're both 1A, 1A, it might be useful to them and to us for them to know that, this is how the group voted, and maybe that creates leverage. So I just wanted to suggest that idea.
Thank you. Is your motion still on the floor?
Yes.
And also, real quick, would you prefer the route that's being suggested by Councilman Reardon or the route that was suggested by the Environmental Committee?
I think the difference is the approach we take moving forward with the engineering and the expense associated with vetting out both options. So if we move forward with what Councilman Reardon is proposing, we would move forward with both options and put equal amount of effort into doing the routing studies and improving those cost estimates. And there's a cost associated with that, but in the big picture of how much we're going to spend on this, it's minimal. If we follow the primary and secondary, we would focus more specifically on the Indiana option while still maintaining discussions with Chicago. But with the Chicago option, you don't need to get as much of a jump start on doing those routing analysis, just because of the time frame is for construction. It would remain the same, but there was not as much of the legwork to do it. So really, that's how I would see the differences between the two options. But I'm risk adverse as nature, as an engineer, so having all of that information available to you, again, that would just change the amount of engineering that we do in the next year.
Okay. Thank you.
So my motion stands.
Motion stands. You need a second.
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor to approve an amended resolution selecting lake water with investigating both options simultaneously. They are the Chicago Department of Water Management and New Indiana intake.
A second.
You seconded? Okay, it's motioned and seconded to approve an amended resolution selecting lake water with a simultaneously investigation of both Chicago Department of Water Management and New Indiana intake. Councilman Morris?
No.
Councilman Mudrin?
Yes.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Just one quick question again, Allison. You said you preferred what the Water Commission came up with, or you did not?
To me, it's it's hard to have a preference because I supported both of these options. However, I would support having as much information as possible.
Very diplomatic. I'm going along with the Water Commission. I'll vote no.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
You know, I received about, excuse me, about half a dozen emails today and some phone calls that people were concerned, we're moving too fast on this, but I know the committee has been working on it for quite some time. I did receive a proposal that I want to get to you, Allison. It's a Kankakee River proposal combined from an individual, combined with our existing wells. I know the low flow days have been increased on the Kankakee River, but I would like you to take a look at it and just to tell me what's wrong with it or what's good about it. Also, $1.1 billion is probably the biggest contract that I've ever voted on. I imagine that any of us up here, and it probably will be the longest one. So, but at this time, I'll vote aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
I truly appreciate the hours, and I made it to 4 or 5 of the meetings myself, in addition to the combined meetings. So I do truly appreciate the work of the Water Commission. And, I think, not being disingenuous, I'm going to tell you, going to Lake Michigan through Hammond is my number one option. If there's some reason that will stop us from accomplishing that, then you go to Plan B. Because once you're a customer, you're always a customer. Under that scenario, with being a customer to the city of Chicago, when you find the way to make it through Hammond and get the water out of Lake Michigan, you become a regional supplier yourself. Well, in essence, a competitor to Chicago, at least down in the south and southwest suburbs. And it's my understanding that both the federal EPA and the state EPA truly has shifted their focus, and although it has not become formal policy yet, they are really saying we don't want onesies anymore. We want communities with a vision, like Joliet has, to provide a proposal and an ultimate system that would be regional. And that regionality, while we have a bigger ticket on the early estimate, which I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong again, Allison, yesterday at our Public Service Committee, you said there's a 30 to 40% contingency on these. So you can take 40% off the 1.1 billion and stop saying 1.1 billion to scare people. It could be far less than that. It could be 600 million. So as Commissioner Horn had pointed out, it's $1 a day at the most difference. That's if we don't get partners involved both up front as well as our own customers down the road. If we go by way of being a customer to Chicago, we will never be able to sell to another community or get another community involved in the capital cost of our project to minimize it. I'm confident we can. I know you said it's a minimal amount because we are talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in the total. Councilman Turk, you've never voted on 1.1 billion, but you've never voted on 625 million either. So,
No.
They're all going to be big numbers. I don't think that we should waste any money. I don't care if it's 20, 50, 100, 200,000. That's tiny compared to, and I appreciate your characterization, that is a small amount. Let's look at the preferred option that's going to be most cost effective in the long term. Least expensive to the actual residents of Joliet when we bring other partners on. Let's vet that. If it's possible, let's be genuine. Let's not, look at 2 at one time. Let's go with what this hardworking commission has brought to us after 18 months, and those that have taken the time to come to the Water Commission meetings and to attend the public Q&As that were set up by you, Allison, your department, and the commission, knows that they've done a job well done. So I would vote no, even though it's really kind of a moot point.
Motion carried 5-3. An amended resolution was approved, selecting Lake Water with simultaneous investigation.
Mayor?
Yes.
Allison, when is that meeting that you're going to talk to our partners or whatever trying to solicit?
Yes, and just one point of clarification. With the purchasing water from City of Chicago, we would be able to resell that water to other communities or form a partnering arrangement where we could be a regional water provider. So those discussions the meeting is scheduled for February 13th, and so that would be a presentation at the Will County Governmental League to, kind of present what the current state of the study is and how we're moving forward. And then we would schedule one-on-one meetings with those other communities to really begin having the deeper conversation about, how they see themselves moving forward.
So when would you have some kind of a feel who would be interested and who wouldn't be?
So the strategic planning document that we provided, we would have those conversations for, about maybe even a year and a half. We'd be looking at probably March of 2021, where we'd want people, other communities decide if they're in or out. And then we would work on what, exactly the rates would be and those intergovernmental agreements. So we really think we have about 2 years before, we could work on that regional structure.
Thank you.
Mayor, can I clarify one thing real quick?
Sure.
Councilwoman Reardon, so the motion was to amend just the section 1 and 2, because there was a third part to the resolution, and that was adopt the Alternative Water Source Program Implementation Strategic Plan. We're still doing that. Yeah. Right? The motion wasn't to amend that part. Okay. Just making sure.
Moving on to Council Memo 13-20, a resolution authorizing execution of an amended and restated intergovernmental agreement between the East Joliet Sanitary District and the City of Joliet for the construction, maintenance, and operation of sewage transmission and treatment facilities. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Moving on, under award of contracts, Council Memo 15-20, purchase 2 heavy-duty tandem axle cab chassis 6x4 with dump bodies with accessories for the Public Utilities Division. Council Memo 16-20, purchase a CAT 259D3 compact track loader for the Public Utilities Division. Council Memo 17-20, request for authorization to award a contract for the 2020 Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Program. Council Memo 18-20, award a contract for the Mills Road Water Main Improvement Project. Council Memo 19-20, award a contract for the Ridgewood Phase 2 Water Main Improvements Project. Council Memo 20-20, award a contract for the Rayner Park Phase 2A Water Main Improvements Project. Council Memo 21-20, award a contract for the Rayner Park Phase 2B Water Main Improvements Project. And Council Memo 22-20, purchase firefighter turnout gear. It's recommended Council Memos 15-20 through 22-20 be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Under amendments, change orders, and payments, Council Memo 24-20, approve amendment number 2 to the preliminary engineering agreement with CSX Transportation, Inc. for the Hobolt Road, Hollywood Road Railroad Crossing widening. Council Memo 25-20, approve change order number 3 and payment request number 3 and final for the Meta Avenue, 2nd Avenue to North End, Pearl Street, Campbell Street, Western Avenue roadway improvement project, CDBG 2019, and Council Memo 26-20, approve change order number 1 and final payout for the 2019 sanitary sewer point repair project for various locations. It's recommended Council Memos 24-20 through 26-20 be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson.
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
And Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next, we have the city manager's report.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, were you going to cover Target? If so, I don't want to...
I was, yeah. but
Okay,
you keep
I don't want to step on your report.
We could say it twice.
I have nothing to report.
New business not for final action or recommendation.
Done.
No, I have nothing.
Ready.
Mayor, if I might, we talked a few months back about, and this is for my colleagues here on the council, that we talked about possibly doing a retreat, a council retreat. So I'd like to throw that back out there and ask city manager and staff if they could, first, let me ask, is everybody still on board to do something like that?
I'm not sure everybody was initially, but
Well, let's try it.
We can try it.
You know,
I'm not opposed to
we're
try.
better than what's going on, so, you know, we can certainly, let's try it.
Okay.
Could I make a suggestion? Since it would appear that a new city manager is, relatively close in the works, do you think that that retreat should occur once that person is on board, or are you looking at
That
more as
could-
an elected official retreat? Because I think that's an important point. Certainly, if you have a retreat and the new city manager comes either after or right on top of that,
That's
it
a
might
great
be
point.
difficult for that relationship to gel.
What kind of retreat are we talking about? Are we going to go to
Kumbaya
some kind of,
retreat.
are we going to go to some resort and I'm going to fall backwards and you're going to catch me? Or are we going to come to city?
Some team building.
Are we going to come to City Hall and meet in a room? That would be called a council meeting. So
No.
what is a retreat? Come on, please explain it to me.
Mike, you did this before. You want to explain how you guys did it?
Yeah, I mean, is it something we do on site, Councilman?
We went to, I believe it was the Wingate Hotel conference room, and city clerk came with us to make sure that we were talking about
Think of a good place
nothing
to go.
about projects and things like that, just about personalities and issues and how to move the city forward.
And who paid
basically.
for it?
I don't think there was any cost.
And Wingate gave it for free?
The room, and we didn't eat or drink, so.
So would I have to hug you?
Well, that's a possibility.
Don't take my last name that seriously, my
That's
friend.
a possibility.
All right.
No, but I think it's something that we can, and Mr. Jones brought up a great point by maybe, waiting. Either or is fine with me, but I think that at this point in time, in the beginning of 2020, as to everything that we've gone through, and we need to come together. I think we're better than this. And we need to come together. We can make it a working retreat. There are a few things that we could be working on, as well as getting to know each other better and getting to work together better. So I'd like to do it. If anybody else is game, I think Mr. Morris said we all should take off and go to Hawaii for.
I wanted to do it 2 months ago, but it was voted down.
Yeah, we could do it. We can certainly do that. So
Y'all probably
anyway,
won't
I
see
throw
me.
it out
Do you
there.
want to throw some dates out between now and the next meeting, Steve?
We have too many meetings right now, right? With all this, with the,
Look,
I mean, come on.
I,
All these
Well, this-
interviews, the city manager, they keep getting postponed.
Well, we
and
can
then with the
wait. We
neighborhood
can wait
meetings.
till after that. That's
I
fine
can't
with
look
me,
at
just so
another
we
day
can
right
get it done. What about that?
I don't mean to make light of it. Well, no, actually, I do. To be
You do.
honest.
Yeah, I know you do.
Look, guys, we're adults. That was a question, that we did during the interview process about how a city manager can make us get along. Nobody can make it. We're
Not the
adults.
city manager that's
I
making-
don't see a personality problem up here. I see a difference in agenda. I see a difference in hidden agendas, and that's not going to change because I give Councilman Turk a hug or a pat on the back to Councilman Dickinson.
I don't think that there are any hidden agendas. I think that we could always work better together. We owe it to these people of Joliet who has entrusted us with policy and things. So for them to see us act like that,
Councilman, we owe it to the people to act like adults. I don't need to
are
go.
acting like
I don't need to go to
adults.
some
Why
kind
don't
of
you sit
huggy-feely conference somewhere. Just put on your big boy and big girl pants. Start acting like adults up here.
I just
I've had
don't
enough of the
mind,
controversy.
just get
I've had
together.
enough of the.
Let's
We're not
get
going to
it
hide
done.
it as some kind of personality conflict. It's an agenda conflict.
She has the floor right now.
I thought it moved to me.
No, not
No,
yet.
it hadn't, but, I respect your opinion. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. It was just merely a suggestion, because I think that we're not fooling anybody out there. There has been some contentions up here. 2020 should be the year that we all, and everybody up here, don't get me wrong, everybody up here has a desire for this city, to make this city work. We can work better because we are better. And so that was just a suggestion, Mayor. It may happen, it may not, but that's where I am.
If you set a meeting, I'll come.
Oh, thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome.
I like Mr. Jones's suggestion, wait till the new city
Exactly,
manager
we
gets
could
on
do
board.
that too,
Then we're all
whenever.
getting a fresh start.
Absolutely. That could work as well, as long as we, come together and do it.
Yes, and I apologize. I mistakenly thought it had moved to me. I really did. With the new
Stepping on me.
no. But within my own comment section, I mean, come on, folks. We're adults. You're right, Councilwoman. The public isn't being fooled by any pretensions or I'm a busy guy. I know you're all busy. I can't break away for a day or two to go do touchy-feely therapy. We're adults up here. Okay, here's our retreat. Guys, let's get on the agenda that's best for this city. For this city. Not for ourselves, not for the people that we depend on behind the scenes to counsel us. Let's do what's best for the citizens. Can we all agree to that?
I agree with that.
Done. Okay. And I didn't charge a penny, not even for the room. And the other thing is I will apologize to the Water Commission. You put in 18, I'm excited that we did pick Lake Michigan. You put in 18, over 18, almost 20 months. I was at only a handful of 4 or 5 of the meetings. Most everybody else wasn't, and it just got your 18 months, although it was like a detail, was overturned in the bat of an eyelash by 5 votes.
Yes.
And nothing,
Well, I know that was directed at me, and I meant no disrespect for the Environmental Commission. I appreciate all you've done. I know you've worked so hard. I just don't see, in your own words, the contingency of 30 to 40% could also go the other direction, and we could be looking at $1.5 billion. So I want to make sure that when we look at this, we're looking at it completely with our eyes wide open, and I don't want us to get caught on the other side and not have looked at the other option at all.
Okay, I have something kind of a similar vein where you're at, Councilman Gavin. The last year, about last June or so, we had a horrible homicide at one of our casinos where a senior citizen was followed up to his room and murdered in the hallway and robbed. And it was by a homeless individual that was not from Joliet, that was from the city of Chicago, but was staying in Joliet. So I talked at the time about putting together a task force for the homeless. I worked a little bit with the police department, but not much about this. And shortly after, everything came off the rails up here in the city council, around that same time last summer. So that task force was never put together. But what I want to do, in the spirit of a new year and a new start, I am going to put a task force together. It's going to be local business owners and local citizens. We are going to address the violence that's occurring inside the city of Joliet. 7 people were shot in our city on Christmas Eve. That taps off a horrible year that's intolerable, and that one person on this council should be tolerating what's happening in our city and in our neighborhoods. There has been nonstop chaos on the police department, the crime and the homicides, the overdoses, unprecedented amount of overdoses in the last year, and the homeless. So I'm going to put a committee together. I'm going to hopefully have a list of people at the next meeting. This committee is going to meet, and we're going to make recommendations back to the city council. And I would hope that this time, whatever those recommendations are, that the council is going to listen and hopefully follow. We cannot allow another year to happen like what happened in 2019. Exactly. So I'll leave it at that. It is a new year.
I'm so glad you said that. I am so glad you said that.
Thank you.
You had brought that up before, and there are several people that I have shifted to your office to call. They want to get on that committee. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Next, we have public comments. Is there anyone that would like to speak under public comments this evening?
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Chief. I'm here on behalf of Isabel Cayetano. She is the mother of 13-year-old Javi Cayetano, 13-year-old child that was killed in Reedswood, February 21st of 2019. At her request, because of a language barrier, she asked that I come and speak to share the agony that her and her family have been dealing with this year. Councilman Dickinson and Morris, thank you, because you guys were there when we had the memorial for Javi Cayetano. He was a dear friend of my son. This is his sibling, his sister. We know that the chief is doing the best he can do, and JPD detectives are working on this case, but it's been almost a year, and it's not been solved, and this family is dealing with a nightmare. And so I see that you guys are, laughing and, talking about this retreat and different decisions that you made that financially impact our community and us taxpayers, but I am asking that you help provide resources, additional support, whatever that means, to JPD, to our chief, so that they can get these homicide cases resolved. Most importantly, this one of Javi Cayetano. It hits home for me because he is a 13-year-old child. I have children. My house, as you know, was vandalized. I know what it is to be targeted by gang violence. And so we're pleading and begging you all. It's a new year. Mayor, thank you for bringing that up because it's true. And, we bumped heads before, but I respect you. At the end of the day, I respect all of you. You guys are the fabric of our community. And I thank you, Mr. Hug, because you're right. You don't need a retreat to get it together. We're all grown adults here. And we don't get a retreat away from the nightmare that we deal with. I live in St. Pat's area. We've had constantly shootings going on back to back. JPD's responsive, they're on it, but we need more. So I appreciate this task force that you want to put together and this committee group that you want to put together because it is so important. We're losing too many children. And I'd like to let his sister Elizabeth say a few words, please.
Hi, my name is Lisbeth Cayetano, and I know that the detectives are doing all they can to, find the people that are responsible for what happened, but it's just really hard because we had to move away from Joliet to be safer. It's not even safe for the kids to walk to school anymore because you don't know what's going to happen with all these gang members that are out there, and nobody speaks up for anything that's going on. And I just want to say that if you guys could, do more. I know you guys could do a lot, but there's some things you can't do because there's not people that cooperate with you guys. And you guys said that you want to make this year better and to make Joliet better so that more people could come and you guys could have more residents. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Isabel, his mom, is just asking that you all come together and help. There are many families as hers struggling with this, and we're asking for unity with you guys and for help. And that's all she has. Thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to speak on behalf of that, but I also have my own that I'd like to share. Is that okay, Mayor?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. As you all know, I'm Maddie Perez from St. Pat's area. I just wanted to let you guys know that the chief and the detectives, they got together and they gave me a camera, a home security camera. They assisted me because I've spent over $5,000, almost $6,000 on the damages that were caused to my home because of the 5 shootings. And economically, financially, having a big family, having all this damage, it was putting me in a bind where we couldn't get it. And so they helped. And I wanted to share that there's been no more violence. It's been a 360 since the town hall meeting. I've been able to meet regularly with lieutenants, Igizio, and they've been phenomenal. Gavin, they've been very responsive. The chief, Deputy Chief Reed, I want to thank you guys. I really do from the bottom of my heart. It's been a long time. This violence has started in 2017 and it just got escalated over the last 3 years and it got worse. In 2017, my mom was struck at the front door of my home and she was injured with a contusion from gangbangers that came trying to get into my home. So I've been in my home for 20 years, as you all know, but I've not felt safer than I do now, thanks to the response that I'm getting. I know you guys, just like everybody else, might have disagreements, but we need you guys to hold it together. And, one of my ideas would even be tapping into the grammar schools, especially junior high, Me being a mother, I struggle, you know, especially with my 14 and my 16-year-old, because they want to do what their friends are doing. They want to see what, you know, everybody's out there doing, the popular thing, you know. We need to ensure that we're giving these teenagers, early teens, the tools and resources they need. And I know it starts at home, and I know I do my damnedest as a mother to do that, but it's hard because of the environment outside of my home. So, I don't know, maybe having officer friendlies go to the school to speak and build these relationships with students, the trust, because it really starts, it's amazing the things that these 6th and 7th graders, 8th graders are seeing and hearing. You know, they need this. And there's no respect for authority, there's no respect for our police department because of the lack of relationship, positive relationship that they have. And, you know, I saw the video, what you guys did, JPD did on Christmas for these kids, and it was a beautiful thing, but those are younger kids. Our teenagers need that, and I'm talking junior high. So whatever, you know, support, resources, we really need it, because we have to live here, and I love Joliet, I love my city, but we need to do more, and we can. There's a lot of great things that you guys are doing, a lot of beautiful things, but there's a lot of violence plaguing our community as well. And another thing I'd like to say, the Thornton's gas station, I don't live on the east side, however, I think that's a great idea to have that Thornton's gas station there. It's a corporate-owned business. I'm sure it's gonna have a lot of lighting. That's gonna deter gangbangers from hanging out on that corner. I know a lot of constituents said that they're fearing because of the liquor, but the reality is we have teenagers getting access to liquor. We have gangbangers driving around with guns. You know, we need more businesses like this that bring good lighting, you know, deter that. You know, there's gonna be cameras there. That's gonna help deter violence. And like I said, yes, we risk that people will buy alcohol there, but it's gonna be more expensive than they can get at Calderon or that they're serving to underage kids at Azteca de Oro. So I mean, this is already happening. We need to be realistic about what's going on here. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Council. My name is David Vandick. I'm a constituent of Joliet. I want to thank Ms. Gavin earlier. She said we all need to work together. And to Mr. Hugg, I would expect that every one of us in this room act like adults. Well, with prior actions that have been going on in the city, I'm totally disgusted. I have concern as a constituent of the city, and I want no way in any form that this should be construed as harassment, okay? I've been a victim of the appearance of some impropriety from actions or indirect actions from municipal actors or employees. The concern I have is if this group feels threatened and they have the appearance of some nonfeasance or malfeasance against employees or constituents and has the appearance to direct violation of certain constitutional rights of every citizen of the city, that they should be held accountable as well. There's not a lot I can say that this needs to cease and desist against the constituents and against employees. This kind of conduct it shouldn't be condoned. And like you said earlier, we are adults and we all need to work together. And, we should all move together moving forward in a lot of things that cost all of us money or has the intent to prior cost the city money for some actions that certain people have done. We need to stop this kind of conduct. I don't like bringing things to the city anymore. Why? Because I indirectly got hurt. Now, and then another thing someone said, when you write an email, you're a city actor. That's not privilege. And then there was the assumption that that it's private or do you guys have anything to hide that's criminal? I mean, all this stuff is foiable. And if you don't write it or you don't give it to us, well, we have this one thing that's agency. It's called the Public Access Division in the Attorney General's office. That we all need to realize that no one is above the law. I don't care who you are. If we don't work together, things are not going to get straightened out. We all need to like put our big pants on or whatever the comment was, but we all need to start acting like adults. And, you know, I apologize for this kind of conduct that I have to come in and say things like this. But since I moved back to Joliet, I've been very low about asking for information, doing any kind of investigative reporting. Well, those days are done. I got a really nice in with the newspapers now. So we all just need to do things accordingly and try to work together. That's all I'm asking. Well, have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey everybody, Happy New Year. I'm Erica Holmes. I am in the community doing a lot of things, and one of the things that's coming up that we will encourage everyone to participate in is the MLK Day of Service at Joliet Central on January 20th. Be at Joliet Central at 7:30 a.m. so that you can get your assignments to go out to different organizations and give back. So it's a day on versus a day off. That's it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak under public comments? Next is mayor and council comments.
No, I have nothing.
Just want to say Happy New Year, and I really want to say welcome to Harold's Chicken. I tell you, good food over there. So if you haven't visited Harold's Chicken, the corner of, what is it, Ottawa and Cass and Ottawa, please do. And please welcome them to Joliet. The food was fantastic, and got a little bit of a wait, so be patient, or either call your order in earlier. But they cook everything fresh as you order it, so please welcome them to the city of Joliet by patronizing their business. Thank you.
I would like to say Happy New Year to everyone and just say that I did I passed out in my district, RISE, the new marijuana store you guys had approved. And so I guess on the heels of saying Happy New Year, I can say it looks like the city started the new year on a high note.
You can't follow that, Terry.
I just want to know, are we going into closed session to discuss things later?
Yes, that's the next item on the agenda.
We can't do it openly?
Up to you.
Well, it's up to you as well.
I'll go into closed session tonight.
No comment.
Sherry? Mike?
No, I just echo Councilwoman Gavin's comments. I was down there the other day, and the line was so long, I knew I wouldn't get in and out to get back to work, so I had to leave, but I tend
Where,
to...
The RISE?
No, Councilwoman Gavin's comments. But I did take a ride out to Rise New Year's morning about 9 o'clock just to see what was happening, and they were lined around the building.
You got a dark gray hoodie?
What's that?
You got a dark gray hoodie?
No.
Also wish everyone a Happy New Year. And mention, we were at Target this morning on Route 6. The new distribution center had their grand opening. Councilman Morris was there. Steve Jones, interim city manager, and Derek Conley. Let's be frank, we didn't have enough of those last year, those grand openings. First 4 years I was mayor, those were a pretty regular occurrence, but it was a good way to start the year. 300 employees, no temporary workers at Target, so I did ask about that. But welcome Target, and and it's a good way to start the year. I'd like to see more of that as we move forward. Thank you.
Next is closed session. Is there a motion to go into closed session to discuss personnel, collective bargaining, land acquisition or conveyance, pending or threatened litigation, evidence or testimony, after which the meeting will reconvene?
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Councilman Dickinson. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Question, Marty? If there's a vote to be taken, doesn't it have to be done in public?
It does, and that's why after, we're not adjourning, we're coming back here.
They are coming back.
Yes, there's another item on the agenda, action item, discussion and potential action on ethics complaint. Councilwoman
Aye,
Coleman.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. Councilwoman Reardon. Aye. Motion carried.
Stay tuned, folks.